All right, St. Louis, I decided to take a few minutes just to come on and just talk a little bit, if we can, St. Louis, about what is actually going on. I want us to all go back when we were children, growing up in the projects in St. Louis inner city, Carr Square, Prunago, Devon, Bluemeyer, Doris Webby, Laclede Town, North Side, East Side, West Side, etc., Central West End. I want us to think about how fearless, in a sense, we were as youngsters. We wasn't really afraid. I mean, we were a little afraid, but not really. We witnessed people get shot and people get hurt. There were several house fires where kids and family members died. Some people died of murder. Some people died of various infirmities. And those people that didn't die back when we were youngsters, they were a little older than us. They're probably dead now. They didn't exceed 100 years, I'm pretty sure. So most of you are probably 50 plus, if not 60. That's listening right now. Some are a little younger, 40. We must begin to understand that the mind itself is gradually decreasing in cognitive ability to understand the things that are around it. In other words, the environment in which it's encoding to make sense of what it sees is slowing down. So as a result, it's going to encode slower. So it's going to take longer to see what you are capable of seeing if you had more power. However, if someone had a stronger mind, they're going to see what you can't see because their mind is encoding faster, processing faster. Just like those that come up with various inventions, like the iPhone, video, television, Orville and Wilbur Wright. Those guys were able to see and encode a lot deeper. So they were the ones that became the billionaires. Zuckerberg, Facebook, Google, and so many more. Elon Musk with electric cars, SpaceX, Richard Branson, Bill Gates, Microsoft, so many. But my question to all of you is this. Many have come up with the understanding as to how to bring technology into the now and make it affordable and available to the people. But the question I ask all of you, is it possible that the mind is not developed enough to create what we need to create in order to literally remove us from the earth? There's roughly 8 planets. Last I checked, at least that's what they say. You got Mercury, you got Venus, you got all the way up to Neptune, and the earth is number 3. But what happens if we are incapable of producing a sound that could take us into the truth, which we would consider to be Neptune, which is the most distant planet? What if we were going the wrong way in mind? And as a result of going the wrong way in mind, based upon our neurons and synapses, we're processing slower than we are capable of processing. But we don't know because no one came back from the future to say we were wrong. What am I saying? If we are going in the wrong direction, and as a result of going in the wrong direction, you're only operating at analog. However, you're going to build some things within the direction in which you're going that's going to be a little more stronger than analog. However, you still are going in the wrong direction. You're going towards death. So what happens if we have the ability to contract inward and create what they call a supernova? And as a result, we can warp space and time and create a ripple in that fabric. They call it a gravitational wave. 1.3 billion years ago, subsequently came down to Earth. And as a result, we would in turn see something that was unavailable to the broken mind. What happens if we can literally create such power in our generation which will enable us to see things that are light years into the future, into the now, such as Neptune, as an example. What happens if we can literally bring the power of Neptune, which is the most distant planet, down to Earth, which would definitely cause a ripple in space and time, subsequently reverse the laws of thermodynamics and enable us to see things that we were incapable of seeing. So in other words, everything that's available is available. We just can't see it. We're dying before we see it. In other words, you look at yourself as having a body. You're born. Your life expectancy will give you 100 years. But the mind never evolved fast enough to be able to slow the death of the body down that can literally cause the body to reach a different sound. Subsequently, as a result of reaching that sound, the body itself will become one with that mind. Energy equals mass at the speed of light. Power equals mass at the speed of light. So we would now be in a different reality, a different world. Is it possible that we followed false doctrine, false religion, and we thought it was true because our level of intellect was so misinformed, and those that were our teachers were also misinformed? They sounded like they were intelligent, articulate, but yet they were blind. And as a result, the graveyards are full of those that are blind. And we become accustomed to believing that we're going to go to heaven once we leave here and we're going to be judged. You're already judged. You're in darkness. You're in darkness. 100 years of life doesn't compare to 13.8 billion years of life, which is equivalent to power. I don't know, St. Louis. I think it's imperative that we wake up and come out this box. In other words, we must begin to think outside the box, and contrary to those that don't like what we're saying, who cares what they like? Because they don't know what they like, because they don't even know themselves. We have to help them to help themselves, and then they would realize that they were making a mistake. Until then, all of us are going to fall in quicksand, and I'll be damned. I'll be damned if I play that radio. Too much at stake. Grandbabies, great-grandbabies, great-great-grandbabies, great-great-great-grandbabies. What bothers me, and I'm going to conclude with this. What bothers me is that we can have our children. They can in turn have children. The children have children. And we will not be able to see our grandbabies' children's. So many of you are thinking, well, you're too old to see them anyway. But the question is, old is not what you perceive old is. We're dying based upon the negative sound. If we can reach a higher level of awareness where we can literally warp space and time at absolute zero minus friction and heat, we will live for the first time. The Bible says, let the dead bury the dead. Many of you are going to funerals and fail to realize the person you buried is dead just as you are dead. It's just that they're dying revealed first. We must reverse that. And as a result, we would no longer have a need for hospitals, nursing homes, and the grave, because we would contract inward. And the time in which they've given us for life, which is 70 to 80 years, if not a little longer, we would deal with it within an attosecond, 1/1,000,000,000 of a second. So as a result of that, it clearly tells me if the universe itself, or shall I say, there is roughly 8 planets, and the Earth literally takes, as they say, 365 days to orbit the sun one time, but yet Neptune takes 165 years to orbit the sun one time. So therefore, that tells me that Neptune is so far away, but it's not away as we perceive it to be. It's in your mind. So if you could reach the sound of Neptune, hydrogen, helium, or whatever you want to consider it to be, I'm one to believe that we can literally reverse death and create a new world. Till next time, I want to come on for a moment. Shout out to my grandbaby Noah. Shout out to Quentin and Catherine. Keep grinding. Dad got you. No question about it. Shout out to Zion. My grandbaby now, Gabe, Walter, and Danielle. Shout out to you and your family. Shout out to Alabama and Georgia. Shout out to New York. Shout out to the Bahamas, as well as Chi-Town. Tanya's in the house. Shout out to Virginia. Shout out to Nikki. I don't want to miss anybody, but I'm quite sure I probably will, but that's okay. Shout out to Florida. Shout out to the Alien, as well as Herman. Shout out to Pete, New York. Shout out to Joy, D, Toretta, Yolanda, Norman, or Norma, I should say. So many. I'm not going to start naming people in New York. I love New York. I'm not going to get into naming because I'll start naming them and they'll say, okay, Walt didn't remember me. I love you all. And remember, I'm going to see you sometime, hopefully, in the near future. Till then, remember, we must take the mountain and we must take it by any means necessary. And if you don't put in the work, you're not going to know what you could have received by not putting in the work. So put in the work and you'll see something totally different than you have been seeing since you entered this dark world. God bless.